strangers on a street corner in an American city. Three generations from different backgrounds. Yet these three men have much in common. Each has been a soldier in the United States Army. The gentleman with the graying hair can still remember the beachhead at Salerno in 1943, when he came in on the first wave of General Mark Clark's assault troops. The man next to him at the bus stop recalls the hard fighting in Korea. His unit took the same scarred hilltop 4 times in 3 days. For this young man, the memory of combat is so fresh he can still smell the mixture of aromatic rice patties and burnt cordite, which will always remind him of Vietnam. The unseen bond between these men is close. They've all known combat, they've all been infantrymen, and they've all known what it is to have earned the High Infantry Award of the Silver Rifle. Combat infantryman's badge, with its imprint of a silver rifle, is a symbol of the foot soldier's skill and dedication. Today you will see something of the heritage of sacrifice and achievement behind this emblem, and how it was developed in various forms to honor the American infantryman. The choice of a musket as the main element of the combat infantryman's badge was a fitting one. Since our nation began, the American rifleman fighting on the land has been the mainstay of our strength for freedom. And it's always been the combination of personal courage and a good firearm that has won the United States fighting man's success in battle. In early days, the flintlock musket was the foot soldier's main weapon. It required a lot of preparation before firing. Powder and shot had to be loaded separately, and a ramrod used to pack them down into the barrel. The citizen soldier who made up the colonial militia, the infantry of their day, got their first training with a musket, and it paved the way for a far more effective weapon. By the end of the French and Indian War, the new weapon had appeared on the frontiers of Pennsylvania and southward. This weapon was to gain fame later as the Kentucky rifle. It still required muzzle loading and ramming, but the spiral grooves in its barrel could spin a bullet more accurately to its target. In the hands of an expert marksman, the rifle could take a heavy toll on the battlefield. During our War of Independence, the rifle company became an important part of the Continental Army. One of the most famous of these companies was led by Colonel Daniel Morgan, who recruited over 100 men to form his unit. Eventually, General Washington selected 500 of the Army's best riflemen and put them under Morgan's command. At the Battle of Saratoga, Morgan's rifles delivered a withering fire against British forces under General Burgoyne. These sharpshooters helped win a critical American victory that turned the tide of the war. Despite the superiority of the rifle as an accurate weapon, there was always a shortage of good marksmen. The musket, effective at a short range and adaptable to a bayonet, continued to be the basic weapon for the infantryman through most of the 19th century. By the early 1900s, the foot soldier's weapon had changed a lot. It was still fairly large and heavy, but it was a much more accurate and reliable firearm. When an officer asked a soldier to name his weapon during an inspection, he would rattle off U.S. rifle, caliber 30, clip-fed, bolt-operated Springfield 1903. The man who carried one of these on his olive drab shoulder was called a doughboy. but he was still what his great-grandfather had been, the soldier on foot with a well-cared-for weapon and the job of taking ground and holding it. And like his grandfather, he was good at his job. During the first few years of the new century, if rifles were in short supply, he trained with wooden models. No branch of the Army is more exacting in its physical demands on the soldier than the infantry. By the early 1900s, following the Spanish-American War, our military planners recognized the need for a strong infantry establishment in the United States Army. Infantry training during this period reflected the hand-to-hand combat typical of battle in the previous century. The bayonet was still important to the foot soldier, whose order of the day remained engage and defeat the enemy. In the summer of 1917, it was over there for the doughboys. As American expeditionary forces arrived in France to join the Allies in World War I. The commander of the AEF was General John J. Pershing, a natural leader, a thorough organizer, and a strict disciplinarian. He began military operations in France with a U.S. Army of about 200,000 men. Before the fighting was over, more than 2 million men made the trip across the Atlantic to the battlefields of France. The names are famous in military history. Soissons, Reims, Chateau Thierry, the Somme, Belleau Wood. This was a war of massive infantry advances in the face of heavy enemy fire. It took courage and it took skill to go over the top. And it took a lot of men to do it. The foot soldier in World War I had a new weapon to contend with, the machine gun, which demanded new assault tactics. Troops had to be spread out with greater distances between the men to reduce the effect of the enemy machine gun fire. Gradually, the concept of infantry was beginning to shift from the solid line of attacking troops that characterized warfare in earlier days toward the individual man, working as a part of a team. Throughout history, the foot soldier has always received support from other Army elements. In the First World War, the tank, developed by the British, moved successfully against the enemy's machine guns and provided effective support for infantry attack. But more than in any war up to that time, the infantryman found himself faced with the challenge of making his way in battle largely on his own initiative, with only his weapon, his courage, and his belief in his cause to see him through. The Springfield 1903 was used until the early 1940s, when the infantryman was issued this new weapon, the M1, a hard-hitting semi-automatic weapon with considerably more firepower than the bolt-operated Springfield. And again, the weapon and the man proved an unbeatable combination. They got acquainted at training camps all over the country. Instruction became a way of life for the soldier as he learned all there was to know about the new weapon. Above all, he learned to fire it with safety and accuracy, under the watchful eyes of his instructors. While mastering the M1 as his new basic weapon, he had to learn to operate a whole new group of infantry weapons. The submachine gun, the Browning automatic rifle, new and more powerful mortars, hand grenades, the bazooka, the flamethrower. The infantryman had to learn to adjust to complex enemy defensive measures, such as landmines and booby traps. But now, more than ever, the foot soldier learned to fight as a part of a team, to work out intricate field problems for squad or platoon. learn to move swiftly and silently on patrol assignments, to probe enemy strength and bring back vital intelligence. Special types of infantry troops were developed, such as mountain forces, capable of operating on rugged hill terrain. And paratroopers capable of quick entry into combat. Gradually, the concept of the foot soldier as a specialist in the infantry arts began to affect the makeup of the regiments and divisions. The traditional skill of the American rifleman adapted quickly to handling the new automatic firing equipment aided by an arsenal of latest combat weapons. This new breed of individual infantry experts was about to meet the greatest military challenge in American history, the Second World War. In the East, they would face a strong, aggressive military force bent on Pacific conquest. In the West, their enemy was on the march through Europe with one of the most powerful land armies ever assembled. To provide arms and equipment for the vast number of foot soldiers and other military components we were to send overseas, American industry, in cooperation with military planning and research, mobilized its resources. As never before, a nation drew its battle lines behind its fighting men and gave them not only the means to fight, but the spirit and the will. Like their forebears at Saratoga, they met the challenge with courage and confidence. An army of citizen soldiers, trained by experts under the leadership of men who knew how to get the job done. And it did take some doing. Mobility without precedent in the history of warfare took the U.S. foot soldier of World War II far from his shores. Wherever he went, whatever his assignment, his essential mission was the same: move in on the land, take ground from the enemy, and hold it.